Waitress shared her lunch with a crying boy. 14 years later, he returned as a billionaire to change her life. What if one small act of kindness, something as simple as sharing your lunch with a crying child, could change the course of both your lives forever? It was a slow afternoon at the small diner where Lisa had worked for years. The bell above the door chimed every few minutes as customers came in and out. But business was quiet. It was the kind of day that didn't stand out in any way until he walked in. Lisa had worked here for what felt like forever. She had always enjoyed the simple routine of it, taking orders, serving food, making small talk with regulars, but she was never one to expect anything extraordinary to happen. Most days, the customers came in, ate their meals, and left without much interaction. But today was different. A young boy, no older than 10, walked into the diner alone. His eyes were red, as though he had been crying for hours. Lisa immediately noticed him, her heart tightening as she saw the sadness in his gaze. He wasn't with anyone. No parents, no friends, just a lonely child with a heavy burden that Lisa could feel. Even from across the room, the boy hesitated at the door, glancing around as if unsure of where to sit. Lisa watched as he walked over to a booth by the window and slid into a seat, his small frame looking out of place in the oversized chair. He didn't look at the menu. Instead, he sat there, staring at the table, his hands folded in his lap. Lisa could see it in his face, the weight of something heavy, something that was making him feel small and lost. It was the kind of loneliness that no child should ever have to experience. And Lisa felt a pang of empathy for him. She had seen troubled faces before, but something about this boy stood out to her. After a few moments, she couldn't ignore it any longer. She walked over to his booth, her feet moving automatically, as if something inside her knew she had to help him, no matter how small the gesture. She smiled warmly as she approached, trying to make her voice as gentle as possible. "Hey there," she said softly. "Can I get you something to eat?" The boy looked up at her, his eyes wide and unsure, before shaking his head slowly. "I'm not hungry," he whispered, his voice cracking. Lisa sat down across from him, still keeping her distance, but close enough to show she wasn't going anywhere. "You don't have to eat if you don't want to," she said kindly, "but maybe I can sit with you for a while. I've got a little time before the dinner rush." The boy's eyes darted up, looking at her as if he had been waiting for someone to notice him. "I'm okay," he said quietly, though the tears that had been welling up in his eyes were beginning to spill over, tracing down his cheeks. Lisa's heart broke. She didn't know what had happened to him, but she knew that no child should ever have to feel this alone. "What's your name?" she asked softly, wanting to give him something to hold on to. "Sam," the boy replied, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "Well, Sam, I'm Lisa," she said, her smile warm and genuine. "I work here. You know, I think I've got an extra sandwich in the back that's just waiting to be eaten. What do you say I bring it over? It's on the house." Sam didn't respond at first. He just looked down at the table, his face unreadable. But then, after a long pause, he nodded slowly. It was a tiny gesture, but it felt like a breakthrough, a crack in the fortress he had built around himself. Lisa returned to the kitchen, her heart heavy with sympathy for this boy who had clearly experienced something painful. She packed a small sandwich and brought it to Sam's table. Sitting down across from him, they didn't talk much while he ate. But as the minutes passed, Lisa noticed something: the way Sam's shoulders relaxed a little, the way his eyes started to soften. He wasn't as tense as he had been when he walked in. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was comfortable. She could tell that Sam wasn't just hungry for food. He was hungry for connection, for someone to acknowledge him. For the next half hour, they sat together in quiet companionship. Lisa didn't push him for answers. She didn't ask why he was upset or what had brought him to the diner that afternoon. Instead, she simply offered him kindness, something he clearly hadn't experienced much of recently. When Sam finished the sandwich, he looked up at Lisa, his eyes still full of sadness, but also a hint of something else, a little bit of warmth, a small spark of hope. "Thank you," he said quietly. Lisa smiled, her heart swelling with a deep sense of fulfillment. "You don't have to thank me," she replied. "I'm just glad you're here." It was a simple moment, one that felt almost insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, that, in some small way, she had made a difference. She didn't know Sam's full story, but she knew that her kindness had been exactly what he needed. Years passed, and the diner carried on. Lisa continued to serve food and offer comfort to countless customers. But she never forgot about Sam. The memory of him, sitting alone in that booth, his heart broken and his spirit fragile, stayed with her. She often wondered what had happened to him. Had he found happiness? Had life treated him better? She hoped that one day she might cross paths with him again, that maybe, just maybe, he had turned his life around. But deep down, she knew that it was likely just a fleeting moment in her life, something she would remember fondly but never see again. Lisa carried on with her life, always giving her best to others, never asking for anything in return. She found fulfillment in making small differences, in being the person who could offer a moment of kindness in a world that often seemed too busy for such things. But as the years went on, something changed. Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that there was more waiting for her. The diner had become a place where she had grown and given, but she also knew she had so much more to offer the world. One quiet afternoon, as Lisa was serving a customer at the counter, the bell above the diner door chimed. She looked up instinctively, her eyes scanning the room when they landed on a man standing in the doorway. Her heart skipped a beat. It was Sam, but not the boy she remembered. The man who stood before her was tall, confident, and radiated a sense of success. The ragged, broken boy she had met so many years ago had transformed into a powerful, well-dressed man. The years had clearly been kind to him. Sam stood there for a moment, his eyes scanning the diner. Then their gazes met. Recognition flickered in both their eyes. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. It was him, the boy she had shared her lunch with so many years ago. He walked toward her, his steps deliberate, as if he had been searching for this moment for a long time. He stopped in front of her, his presence commanding, but his eyes softened when he spoke. "Lisa, do you remember me?" Lisa could barely find her voice. "Sam," she whispered. "I can't believe it." Sam smiled, a gentle smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "It's me. I've been looking for you." Lisa stood frozen for a moment, her heart pounding in her chest. The young boy who had sat in her diner years ago, broken and alone, was now a man, a successful, well-dressed man who seemed to command attention with his presence. The years had clearly transformed him, but his eyes, still carrying a hint of vulnerability, held an unmistakable familiarity. "Sam," Lisa finally managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't believe it's really you." Sam smiled softly, his gaze steady as he looked at her. "It's me, Lisa. I've been looking for you for a long time." His voice was calm, but held a note of gratitude, as if this moment had been years in the making. Lisa felt her heart swell with emotion. She couldn't quite comprehend the significance of this moment. She had always wondered what had happened to Sam, if he had found happiness after the painful time they had shared. And now, here he was standing before her, a successful man with a story of his own. "You've changed," Lisa said, still in disbelief. I didn't expect you to look like this." Sam chuckled softly, the sound both reassuring and comforting. "Yeah, a lot has changed since that day you gave me your lunch. Life wasn't kind to me, but I found my way." They stood there for a moment, the restaurant around them carrying on as usual, the hum of conversation and clinking silverware fading into the background. But for Lisa and Sam, this was the moment everything had been leading to. The moment they finally reconnected after all those years. Sam gestured toward the booth where he had sat so many years ago. "Mind if we sit down and talk?" Lisa nodded, leading the way to the booth. As they settled into the familiar seats, Lisa couldn't help but notice how Sam had grown, not just physically, but in confidence and stature. The boy she had met was long gone, replaced by a man who carried the weight of his past but wore it like a badge of honor. She felt a surge of pride for him, even though she had only known him for a short time. Sam leaned back in the booth, his gaze fixed on Lisa. "I owe you so much," he said, his voice full of sincerity. "That day, when I sat here, broken, and you shared your lunch with me, it changed everything." I had no idea how much that simple act of kindness would mean in the long run. Lisa felt a lump in her throat as she listened to Sam. She had always believed in the power of small acts of kindness, but hearing how it had impacted him so profoundly made her realize just how much of a difference one moment could make. "I just gave you lunch," she said softly, not knowing how to respond. It wasn't a big deal. Sam shook his head, a slight smile playing at the corner of his lips. "It was more than that. At that moment, when I was at my lowest, you showed me that there was still goodness in the world. You made me believe that I could be more than just the broken kid I thought I was. You gave me hope." Lisa couldn't help but feel a deep sense of fulfillment. She had no idea the ripple effect her kindness had caused. It wasn't just about giving food, it was about giving something much deeper: compassion, connection, and the reminder that someone cared. Sam continued, "After that day, I worked hard to turn my life around. I pushed through every obstacle, every moment of doubt, thinking about how you believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And that belief, that spark, it became the fuel for everything I did. I wanted to prove to myself and to you that I could do something with my life." Lisa listened intently, her heart full of both pride and sadness. She couldn't believe how far Sam had come. It wasn't just about success or wealth, it was about resilience, about finding purpose in a world that sometimes seemed indifferent. But as she listened, she began to notice something else in Sam's demeanor, something that made her uneasy. "I'm glad you found success, Sam," Lisa said softly. "But why are you here, after all these years? Why now?" Sam leaned forward, his expression more serious than before. "That's the part I need to tell you. I didn't just come here to thank you for that lunch. I came because I owe you more than just gratitude. I came because I want to change your life, Lisa." Lisa's eyes widened in confusion. "What do you mean?" Sam smiled, but there was a hint of sadness behind his eyes. "When I found out what you were still doing working here, still giving your all to others, still making a difference in ways you'll never fully understand, I realized something. You gave me the gift of a second chance, and now it's my turn to give you one." Lisa's heart raced as she tried to process what he was saying. "Sam, you don't need to do anything for me. I'm just a waitress." "Not anymore," Sam said, his voice filled with a quiet confidence. "I want to buy this diner. I want to give you the financial freedom you've never had. I want you to have the life you deserve. You've spent your whole life helping others, and now it's my turn to help you." Lisa was stunned. She had never expected anything like this. The idea of someone offering to buy the diner, to change her life so radically, was incomprehensible. But there was something else in Sam's words that struck her, something that told her this wasn't just about money. It was about honoring the kindness she had shown him, about acknowledging the profound impact she had on his life. "You don't have to do this," Lisa said, her voice trembling. "I'm happy with what I have." Sam's eyes softened. "I know, but you deserve so much more. You taught me that one small act of kindness can change a life. And now, I want to show you that I've learned that lesson. I want to change your life. You don't have to work anymore, Lisa. Let me take care of you." Lisa sat in silence, processing the enormity of what Sam was offering her. She had never thought of herself as someone who needed anything, but in this moment, she realized how much she had been silently longing for a change, for something beyond the routine of serving meals and taking orders. "You don't owe me anything, Sam," Lisa said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I did what anyone would do. I didn't expect anything in return." "I know," Sam said, his voice thick with emotion, "but that's exactly why I want to help you. You didn't do it for anything in return, and I want to make sure you never have to worry again." Lisa's heart swelled with gratitude. This wasn't just about money or status, it was about the deep connection they shared, the unspoken bond that had been formed all those years ago. Sam had turned his life around, and now he wanted to return the favor. This was the moment Lisa had been waiting for, not for wealth, but for the recognition of her worth, for the acknowledgement that her kindness had made a difference. With tears in her eyes, Lisa nodded. "Okay, Sam, I'll trust you. Let's start a new chapter." Sam smiled, his face full of warmth. "I promise you, Lisa, this is just the beginning, a new chapter for both of us." As Lisa walked out of the diner that evening, The weight of years of struggle seemed to lift off her shoulders. She knew her life would never be the same again, and in that moment, she realized that sometimes kindness had the power to change everything, even a life she never thought could be transformed.